Sterling pushed open the front door, clutching the gift she had carried home from Paris. She wasn't due back until tomorrow, but the runway show wrapped early and she wanted to surprise Xavier. Their third anniversary was worth skipping a Vogue cover interview for. She'd raced home just to cook dinner. In the foyer, a pair of crimson heels stabbed at her eyes. Not hers. She never wore a shade that cheap. Beyond the half-open bedroom door, Brielle's coquettish giggle hissed like a viper. Once she signs off, those 15% shares are ours. Xavier, you promised you'd marry me the minute the Sterling family collapses. Patience. Xavier's voice carried a chill Sterling didn't recognize. She's still useful. That old Quinn fossil is dying. Sterling's the sole heiress. Sterling melted into the shadows and quietly tapped record on her phone. 3 seconds. She gave herself 3 seconds to bleed. Then she nudged the door wider and, under their horrified stares, offered the sweetest smile she'd worn in 3 years. Sorry to interrupt. Carry on, I just need to grab something. She crossed to the safe, keyed the code, and lifted out her late mother's jade bangle. When she turned, Xavier was already on her, fingers clamping her wrist. Jiwei, let me explain. Explain what? Sterling tilted her head as though looking at a stranger. Explain how you comforted me while my father sat in prison while you were busy screwing his secretary? Or how every night you whispered I love you, you were actually tallying my inheritance? She tugged free, saved the recording, and synced it to 3 cloud accounts. Only when the elevator doors sealed did Sterling allow herself to tremble. Not with heartbreak, with exhilaration. 3 years, she could finally drop the act of perfect wife. She spent the entire night in a hotel suite. Beyond the floor-to-ceiling glass the city glittered. Once she'd thought those lights warm, now she knew they were just thousands of fools burning themselves for someone else. Her phone buzzed 23 times, Xavier's name flashing. On the 24th she answered. Jiwei, where are you? Let's talk. His voice carried the perfect dose of panic, as if he were still the husband who brewed brown sugar and ginger tea for her cramps. Talk about a divorce. Sterling's tone was featherlight. I agree. 3 seconds of silence. He clearly hadn't rehearsed for this. You can have the shares, she went on, but I want cash, 30 million, wired in full. You're insane. The company doesn't have that kind of liquidity. Then borrow it. Sterling laughed. Isn't Dylan famed for borrowing? Borrowed my family's name to start, borrowed my father's contacts, borrowed my design drafts to win awards. What's one more 30 million loan? She hung up and powered off before he could answer. At 4 a.m. Sterling opened an encrypted folder she'd built over 3 years, scanned financial reports from Xavier's company, hotel receipts with Brielle, photos of his bribes to officials. She'd never been a fool, she'd merely chosen to play blind. As dawn approached, she dialed a number untouched for 3 years. Morgan, it's me. The man on the other end sounded half asleep. Jiwei, you said you owed me one. Sterling watched the first pale slice of sky. I'm here to collect. Whenever. Morgan didn't hesitate. Where are you? She gave the hotel address, then added, and dig up everything on Brielle, my best friend. Bank records, calls, medical files for the past 3 years. Trouble? No, Sterling said, tugging off her wedding ring and tossing it into the dresser drawer. I'm about to become the trouble. The 30 million hit her account faster than expected. Xavier picked the Civil Affairs Bureau for the rendezvous, suited up as if nothing had happened, white roses in hand, her favorite bloom. Jiwei, I know you hate me right now, he said, dropping to one knee, drawing stares, but give me one chance and I'll prove. Prove what? Sterling looked down at the spectacle. Prove you can screw Brielle while lying to me? Or prove that the 30 million you just wired came from the supplier payments you skimmed? Xavier's face drained of color. You investigated me. 3 years of marriage, one keeps a few mementos. Sterling eased the roses from his grasp and laid them on the floor. Give these to your IPO. May it not rot halfway like our marriage did. She walked inside, spine straight as bamboo. The divorce took minutes. When the steel seal clanged shut she remembered the vows 3 years ago, I'll make you the happiest woman alive. Turned out the happiness was fake, only the word woman was real. She had become one, wholly awake. Outside, Brielle leaned against Xavier's Porsche, belly gently rounded. Jiwei, she faltered, I'm sorry, but the baby's innocent. Sterling looked at her and suddenly smiled. The calm of it made Brielle retreat half a step. How many months? Sterling asked. F4. 4 months ago, Sterling mused, I was in Milan. Xavier said he was touring a Shenzhen factory. Turns out the factory was your uterus. Brielle went paper white. Relax, Sterling said, patting her shoulder. I won't congratulate you. But I will watch the two of you bring this baby into the liar's cesspool. She hailed a cab and sped away. In the rearview mirror, Xavier and Brielle's silhouettes shrank until they were two smudged dots swallowed by the city's roar. Sterling rolled down the window and let the wind dry the damp at the corners of her eyes. Not tears, disinfectant. She would air dry every last drop of the stupidity these 3 years had soaked her in. Act 2. The long lie low. Sterling moved into a crumbling Southtown walk-up. 40 square meters, peeling plaster, stairwell forever reeking of hot oil and boiled herbs. Xavier sent men to tail her. The report came back. Target depressed, 0 threat. Exactly what she wanted. By day she took off-the-books jewelry design gigs online, pricing herself at half market rate, and banked her first steady clients. By night she pored over Xavier's public filings, line by line against the internal sets she'd kept, and uncovered 12 soft spots in the books. 1 month in, she engineered an encounter with Xavier's finance chief, Riley. Corner store, Riley reaching for Odin, Sterling for instant noodles. They locked eyes across the shelf and froze. M. Sterling? Riley blurted the old title. 3 years ago Sterling had still doubled as design director at Xavier's firm. Just Jiwei, she said with a wry smile. I'm not even a manager now. She lifted her basket of ramen and hot dogs. Riley's gaze slid from shock to pity. Dylan's gone too far, Riley murmured. The books are Swiss cheese. He's making us falsify accounts so the IPO can limp across the finish line. Sterling said nothing, only exhaled. I get it. He squeezed me back then too, only I wasn't brave enough to refuse. She paid and left, deliberately dropping a design draft on the tile, an unsigned concept for a luxury brand, the kind that commands 6 figures. Riley dashed after her, returned the sheet, eyes shining. This, your new piece. Just paying rent. Sterling folded the draft away. Oh, I heard your company's hunting for outside finance consultants. I've got a friend. Never mind, you couldn't help. I can. Riley blurted. Jiwei, please, introduce me. The place is chaos. I need backup. Hook, line, sinker. Sterling hesitated 3 days before she reluctantly agreed to introduce her friend, a phantom offshore audit guru impersonated via webcam by Morgan. Through Riley she obtained Xavier's newest raw ledgers. Worse than she'd feared, he'd siphoned customer payments and fabricated 3 blockbuster contracts totaling more than 50 million. His betting, Morgan said on screen, that once the IPO pops the shares will rocket and he'll plug the holes with fresh investor cash. Then we bankrupt his bet. Sterling fed a document through the scanner. Here's Brielle's ultrasound. Guess what? Morgan was silent a beat. 8 weeks pregnant, yet 4 months ago she was skiing in Switzerland. Wait for the encore, she isn't pregnant at all. The report was bought from a back-alley clinic that sells bespoke bellies. What's the move? Patience, Sterling murmured, watching the sky bruise into evening. A good-tasting menu is served course by course. Let them nibble the amuse-bouch first. Xavier's IPO roadshow was set for the next month. Sterling began resurfacing at every social aperture, not as the discarded wife but as rising jewelry talent Vivian Sterling. Her collection *Ashes*, inspired by Rebirth After Burning, detonated on the mini-expo circuit and was devoured by fashion blogs. Xavier saw the coverage while Brielle was trying on wedding gowns. Where's she getting that clout? Brielle fretted. Xavier, does she have backing? He stayed silent. He remembered Sterling's last icy line, *I'll scrutinize that womb of yours*, and a chill pricked him. Yet the IPO circus soon swallowed his attention. Investment banks, law firms, auditors, endless signature pages and payoff dinners. He told himself she was merely a bitter divorcee with a pinch of wit, no tidal wave. 3 days before the roadshow, Sterling accidentally showed up at the warm-up cocktail. White mermaid gown, pearl drops, hair in the low chignon he once swore made her look wholly his. She drifted among investors, laughed like crystal, and when she noticed him offered only a polite nod as she might to any second-tier acquaintance. "Dylan," she said, champagne tilting in her flute, "congrats." Heard the valuation ticked up again? He scanned the room before muttering, "What do you want?" "Just cheering you on," she answered, letting the wine catch the light. "Oh, Avery puked in the powder room. Such fierce morning sickness, why not let her rest at home?" His jaw tightened. Brielle's nausea was staged, but he hadn't realized Sterling's lens was that close. "You've been digging." "Merely caring," she said, smile innocent. "After all, she's carrying my baby, my ex, my BFF, my happy ever after. I ought to be solicitous." She leaned in, voice a feather. "By the way, Riley keeps sprinting to your office. Looks tense. Book cookers do tend to sweat." Xavier's hand began to tremble. "You, relax," Sterling said, taking one step back and restoring a normal social distance. "I'm just a designer. I don't understand finance. Wishing you a successful roadshow, Dylan." She turned and walked away, her skirt tracing an elegant arc through the air. Xavier stood rooted, cold sweat soaking his back. He suddenly realized he might have made a fatal mistake. He had never truly understood Sterling. "Sam," Xavier looked awful. He couldn't get Sterling's words out of his head, fumbled 3 slides in the pitch deck, and investors on the spot pointed out data contradictions. Though he scrambled to fix them, the valuation was still slashed by 10%. Worse, Brielle took a call in the audience, turned deathly pale, and bolted out, never returning. After the presentation, Xavier found her in the parking lot, sobbing. "What happened?" "The hospital." Brielle trembled. "The hospital says there's an issue with my prenatal report and I need a retest." "Xavier, could Jiwei have?" "Shut up." Xavier snapped. "She's a divorcee, what power does she have?" Yet his own heart pounded. Sterling's phrase, inspecting the uterus, whirled in his head like a curse. If Brielle's pregnancy was fake, if the whole thing was a con. No, impossible. Brielle had followed him 3 years, had miscarried for him, had betrayed her best friend. She couldn't lie to him. "Go home," he forced himself to stay calm. "Tomorrow I'll go to the hospital with you." They didn't notice Sterling's friend crouched in a corner of the parking garage, snapping photos. In the picture, Xavier grips Brielle's wrist, his face twisted, nothing like the suave tech darling the press adored. "Perfect," Sterling murmured, studying the image on her phone. "Phase 1 is done. Now let's set them at each other's throats." Sterling's second move, sow discord. She created an anonymous email account and mailed Brielle a clip, Xavier kissing another woman in a nightclub. The video was old, from his wild startup days, but edited to look recent. Brielle broke down. She stormed Xavier's office and confronted him in front of the entire staff. Xavier couldn't defend himself. He could only mutter that he'd been young and reckless. Brielle wouldn't listen. "You lied. You said you only loved me, that Sterling was just a stepping stone. Keep your voice down." Xavier dragged her into his office. "This is crunch time, don't make a scene." "I'm making a scene." Brielle flung his hand away. "I aborted 2 babies for you, faked this pregnancy, turned on my best friend, and you say I'm making a scene?" Outside the door, employees exchanged glances. News spread like wildfire. That afternoon a post titled "Xavier's girlfriend runs amok at startup" surfaced on a career forum. Deleted quickly, sure, but screenshots raced through investor circles. Sterling glanced at her phone and texted Riley, "The moment is here. Send that audit report to Sequoia's Mr. Roberts." "Rowan, are you sure? Once this goes out, the company is finished. Did you forget how they treated you?" Sterling typed. "Year-end bonus wiped, demoted for their screw-up, loan shark debt for your mom's surgery, all courtesy of them." 10 minutes later, "Rowan, it's sent." Sterling set the phone down and moved to the window. Below, plane trees were shedding leaves, the sidewalk glittered gold. Autumn had arrived, harvest season. Act 3, The Kill. News that Sequoia Capital was pulling out as lead investor hit Xavier like a knockout punch. He called non-stop, offered dinners, gifts, but every investor behaved as if on mute, either no answer or vague replies. One finally hinted, "Dylan, clean up your Cameron first." Cameron, the tell-all Brielle had posted on social media. The essay dripped with tears, how a woman sacrificed for love, how she was deceived and betrayed, how she learned he never meant to marry me, just used me to prod his ex-wife. No names were given, yet commenters soon guessed the leads. "That Xavier guy. The one whose IPO is trending. I heard his ex is a gorgeous designer, he still cheated. Scumbag and side chick, please stay together and stop hurting others." Xavier raced to Brielle's apartment and found half her belongings gone. "Are you insane? Do you realize this will ruin me? I'm insane." Brielle kept packing, eyes swollen. "You lied first. You swore once Sterling signed the equity transfer you'd divorce and marry me. Result? You stalled 3 months, then said we had to wait until the lockup period ends after the IPO. That was for our future." Future? Brielle laughed coldly and pulled a report from her bag. "I was never pregnant. 3 months ago I should have told you, but I wanted to see if you'd marry me for this baby." Xavier felt thunderstruck. What did you say?" "I said I fooled you, exactly like you fooled Sterling." Brielle flung the sheet in his face. "Karma, Xavier. You schemed for 3 years, only to be brought down by 2 women. Enjoying the taste." Dragging her suitcase, she brushed past him. At the door she murmured, "Oh, Sterling asked me to pass on a message. The game's just begun." Xavier stood frozen. Sterling. Always Sterling. He suddenly understood this entire nightmare might be her design. Drive a wedge, leak dirt, force investors out, every step hammered his weakest joints. But how? A divorced woman, living in a cramped flat, surviving on freelance gigs. Unless she had been acting all along. Sterling's third move was the unmasking of her identity. Old Mr. His funeral was held in Nanyang, quiet, yet grand. As the only granddaughter, Sterling inherited everything, 51% of Quinn and mining rights worth several $billion. When the story reached the States, the financial press detonated. Hidden heiress of Quinn revealed she's a famous designer. Tech CEO's ex-wife unmasked as Nanyang dynasty heiress. Did Xavier's IPO falter because he lost the strongest in-law? Xavier stared at the headlines, fingers trembling. Quinn. Of course he knew the name. The shadow emperor of Nanyang jewelry, a century-old dynasty whose vaults reportedly outweighed the treasuries of small nations. He had once glimpsed the old man across a ballroom, behind a human wall of bodyguards, and failed to get closer than 3 meters. Now the woman he'd kicked to the curb was the empire's sole heir. His phone buzzed. "Sterling. Seen the news?" she asked, laughter tucked into her voice. "Dylan, feeling the regret yet? What do you want?" Xavier's throat rasped. "Jiwei, we were husband and wife, do you have to burn everything?" "Husband and wife," she echoed, as though tasting spoiled food. "When you conned me, grabbed my family's stake, and had my father jailed, did those words cross your mind?" "That was business." "Exactly, business," she cut in. "So let's talk numbers. The hole in your books is 50 million. You have 3 days before receivership. I have the cash, and I won't lend a cent. What's the price?" "You," she said, drawing the word out, "on your knees, begging." She hung up. He smashed the phone against the wall. Yet 3 days later he knelt in the marble lobby of his domestic headquarters, cityscape glittering below while Sterling lounged on the leather sofa like bored royalty. "Jiwei, I was wrong," he croaked. "Give me one more chance, I'll do anything. Sign." She slid a folder forward. Not a rescue package, an equity transfer. $1 in exchange for every share he owned. Insane. "This is my life's work. Your life's work." Sterling laughed softly. "The core tech came from my father, seed money from my sold draft designs, first client from my uncle. So tell me again, what exactly is yours?" She moved to the window, back to him. "Sign, or file for bankruptcy. Choose." He remembered her vacant stare the day she'd once signed her own shares away. He'd thought her a lovesick fool. Now the weapon had turned. He signed. But Sterling wasn't finished. With Riley's ledgers and 3 years of buried evidence, she handed the Economic Crime Unit a case sharp enough to slice. Officers led Xavier out of the office the morning his lockup period ended. Strong. Could an earlier apology have saved him? Strong, probably not. Sterling needed a public fall to reclaim her narrative. Mercy wasn't in the business plan. Glass still echoing with his shouts, she walked away, red soles clicking down the corridor. 1 year later, Victor stepped out of the detention center squinting at sunlight he hadn't felt in 3 winters. Sterling wrapped her arms around the frail man who once towered over boardrooms. "You've lost weight, Wei. Dad, let's go home." The old mansion had been sold, too many ghosts. In Southtown she bought a courtyard house, planting it with his wife's favorite jasmine. Victor napped under the vines while she drafted jewelry upstairs. His flagship gallery reopened downtown. She ran design and now spoke for the brand, days frantic but whole. Morgan dropped by with project briefs, always a small gift in hand, always a reason to stay for dinner. She still weighed trust in micrograms, yet let him linger by the stove, tasting soup straight from the pot. She designs, she earns, she wakes without fear of the next trap. The empire is restored, the lesson soldered into metal and memory. "You don't have to do this," Sterling said. "What happened back then, I've already forgotten." "I haven't," Morgan said, looking at her. "I forgot how I left the country when you needed me most, how I found out about your wedding from the news. Jiwei, give me a chance to make it up to you." Sterling poured him tea, her movements graceful and unhurried. "Morgan, I don't need anyone to make anything up to me now. I'm my own best compensation." Morgan was quiet for a long time and finally smiled. "You've changed." "Have I?" "The old you would've given up everything for love. The you now," he weighed his words, "is like a blade still in its sheath, gentle, but dangerous. So do you like the old me or the new me?" Morgan didn't answer. He suddenly realized the question was a trap. Whichever he chose, it meant he was judging her. And Sterling no longer needed anyone's judgment. "I'm going," he said, standing. "But I'll wait for you. Not for you to turn around, for you to be willing to believe again." Sterling walked him to the door, then said suddenly, "Morgan, do you believe in karma?" "What?" "Xavier ruined my father and put him in prison, now he's the one behind bars. Brielle faked a pregnancy to trap a man, and now the whole internet knows the truth about her miscarriage. No one dares marry her. She paused, "once believed in love and was cheated until I was covered in scars. Now I don't believe, and I've ended up with everything. So I don't hate them anymore," Sterling said, smiling. "Hate wastes too much emotion. What I need to do is remember this karma and then live my life well." 3 months later Sterling laid a ring on her mother's gravesite. It was a new piece she had designed, named Ember, the lingering warmth reborn from ashes. The center stone was a grey-blue diamond like a sky still smoldering after a fire, circled by tiny white diamonds that looked like sparks not yet extinguished. "Mom, I did it," she whispered. "I didn't become like them. I took revenge, but I never hurt innocent people. I schemed, but I never deceived those who were true to me." The wind blew, carrying the scent of jasmine. "Dad says he wants to go back to his hometown for a quiet retirement. I want to go too, open a small Quinn branch there, run a tiny studio, take it slow, no rush." She rose and brushed dust from her skirt. "As for love," she gazed at the distant sunset. "Mom, what did you used to say? Love yourself first, only then will you have strength left to love others. Now, I finally have strength left." Her phone rang. It was her assistant, Sterling. "Xavier's sentence is out, 7 years for economic crimes. He filed an appeal, but it was rejected." "Got it. Also, Avery. Brielle posted a video on social media claiming she'll expose your dirty secrets and accuse you of setting Xavier up." Sterling laughed. "Let her post. Then send the media the complete surveillance clip from 3 years ago of her and my husband, plus her receipt for buying the fake pregnancy test. Isn't that too ruthless?" "Ruthless?" Sterling slid into the car. "When she snapped photos on my marriage bed and posted them on Instagram, she didn't think it was ruthless." She hung up and watched the city stream past the window. It was still the same city, still the same streets, but everything had changed. She was no longer the foolish woman who'd abandon herself for love, no longer the victim who could only cry after betrayal. She was Sterling, heiress to him jewelry, designer of the Ember series, a woman who had risen from the ashes. As for love, She remembered Morgan's words, "I'll wait for you." Maybe one day she'd be willing to try again. But not now. Now she had too much to do: a new collection, her father's retirement plans, his transition. Life was long. She was in no hurry. Epilogue. 1 year later, Sterling held her solo jewelry exhibition in Milan. The Ember series was a triumph, acquired by several museums. On the closing day, she received a letter from prison. Xavier had written a dozen thick pages, repeating the same thing. He was wrong, he loved her, he would give anything for her to come back. Sterling burned the letter and dropped the ashes in a trash can. Then she walked out of the gallery. The Milan sunset was perfect. Morgan leaned against the car door waiting, a bouquet of white roses in hand, her favorite flower, though now only flowers. "Dinner?" he asked. "Sure," she said, "but I'm paying. I'm rich now." Morgan smiled, fine lines at his eyes, gaze clear. "I know. That's why I've decided to live off you from now on." Sterling laughed too. It was her first genuine smile in 3 years. Not because of the thrill of revenge, not because of the security money brought, but because she finally knew. She had come back to life. From the ashes, from the ruins, from those days of betrayal, deception, and trampling, she had come back. And she was doing better than fine. Thank you for listening to today's story. On a scale of 1 to 10, how would you rate it? If you enjoyed this video, please like and share it with friends. We look forward to hearing your thoughts in the comments, and don't forget to subscribe for more wonderful stories. See you next time.